Welcome back, good to see you. Today we're going to talk about your family tree and the family information that you've been telling yourself you're going to gather together and you haven't done it yet. Let's make a New Year's resolution and do that. This first part of the video, we're just going to talk about standard size paper. It's 8.5 by 11, and if you fold it in half, you end up with a landscape size full sheet, but if it's folded in half, it's 5.5 by 8.5. And you can add on an extra if you want to fold out. This is a family data sheet where you have the husband, the wife, and then source information on the side. And you can also fold it in half again and cut it again, and those pieces will end up being 4.25 by 5.5. And in this case, I put all the family data sheet, the husband, the wife, and then on the bottom is where I put my source page. You always want to make sure you have sources documented. And as you can see, if you just ripped a piece of paper in half twice, this is the size you're going to get. It's a very nice size. Now, how are we going to bind all this stuff together? Because this is our working information. What we could do is just make a little 5 by 6 cover for the 4.5 by 5 sheets, or you could get a 6 by 6 paper pack from the black and yellow dollar store. You know who they are. It costs you like $4.99 or $5.99, really thick pack, and you can use that to cover a file folder. This is a scrap piece of file folder. Remember, I've told you never throw away your scraps. And if I had purposefully cut this, I could have cut it to 6 inches tall or long, and that file card would have fit perfect. I wouldn't have had to do any more cutting. Same thing with these oversized business envelopes, the ones with the windows you get from your bank and so forth. They are 6 inches exactly, and you can cut them down to 6 by 5.5 and have them fit easily, as well as the 4 by 5 format in this box folder.
So what kind of documents do you need? Well, the first thing I'm going to suggest to you is you need a 6th generation chart. No matter how you manage the actual paper, whether you do it full-size paper or whether you fold it in half so you can flip it, you need a 6th generation chart. You also need individual family records so you can quickly reference. When was he born? Oh, that's right. He was born in 1875 in New Jersey. And these are pre-printed documents that I will leave links to. Some of them are formatted a little differently. You saw that 4.25 by 5.5 paste up I did so that your sources folded out. That had the information arranged a little differently. But you always want to have this information at hand when you go to do research, and you always want to record your sources, where you got this stuff, because eventually you're just not going to be able to remember everything. The next thing you're going to need right away is a federal census for 1940. The census is not released until 70 years after that generation or that cohort has died. So we're at 1940 right now. You'll also want to, let's see, what year is this? This is 1930, and I did a cut down where all I did was take the header and then cut off all the intervening information and then paste my family's, one of my branches of my family's information right under all the data. And this is not how, this is just a working copy. This is not what you would have in your bigger book. And then, of course, you can fold it any way you want to. But always have a full copy of the census sheet, because sometimes the people, let's do it this way. Sometimes the people that are on the number or the lines below your family or above your family are actually neighbors, or they might be cousins or something like that. So 1940, 1930, this is what 1930's sheet looks like, and you can see it looks different. And it depends on the source where you get these from, what it actually looks like. So 1930 from this source has 2 pages, and the top page is goes from the name all the way to the column where 32, where it says the schedule of the farms, and then it continues by putting in, so you know who you're talking about again, the name of the father and the mother, and some various other information. All this information is important, and they actually put the symbols and codes on the bottom of this sheet, which is why it's in two pieces. But normally the 1930 census that I have doesn't look like this format, because it doesn't give you all these codes and stuff, but it's useful information. 1920 looks different. We didn't have computers. This is actually a copy, a typed out copy, where they formatted all this information that you're going to fill in by doing it on a typewriter. The next thing you're going to need are lists of information that you can find through other people's family trees. So this one happens to be from Ancestry.com. I did not pay for this account. I went to the library. A lot of times the library under the Gale, Gale, system will have a library account. And I was able to print off from somebody else's tree all of the people that have a similar last name to this branch of the family. And then I use this as a reference because there are quite a few cross-referenced people, and there are quite a few in her tree that run parallel to my tree. And then also you can create an Excel spreadsheet of an index of individuals. That's what this is, an index from her tree. But you can also do it in Excel, where you just list all the names, birth date, birth location, death date, and death location. This kind of information, you can find it on the Social Security Death Index. And all of these little details are important. You might find this information in one place and not in another. So, the next thing I want to show you is for St. Louis County, which is where Duluth is, their death indexes, and this is from 1975 to 1999. The people in my family who died during that time, it gives first, middle, last. Sometimes you don't get a middle name, you just get an initial in some other list, the date of death, and the certification number for that record. And then these were all cut and paste on here. I just made a document of information in Word that had different things that I wanted to research further. From 1948, the people who donated to St. Jehoshaphat's Church, and some other information from other researchers. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, here we go. Here's an article written by Ray Marshall. It's a copyrighted article, but it's free to research through. And this is the Polish churches of Duluth, Minnesota. And then it gives section numbers, like a little index. And then his introduction and the things that he wrote about the churches. Cemetery records are important. Polish genealogy resources for Duluth, Minnesota the Duluth, Minnesota branch of genealogy research is extremely active, and they are friendly and helpful. And then you have a bibliography as well. So those kinds of documents are really important to have, but you don't want to lug all this stuff around. So that's the reason for having a smaller paper index that gives you the most important information and the source where you got it. So how are we going to manage all this paperwork? Well, if you thought you were going to gut a hardcover book and, use the book boards, I'm not going to tell you you can't, but you'll have to do some adjustments on your printer as to the size of your page. Remember, this is an 8.5 by 11 page folded in half. And when we do that, you see that it appears we have plenty of room, but not really. So you either don't use the standard hardcover book boards, or you shrink this down when you go to print it out, you don't print it at 100%. You print it at 90 or 80%, and you'll have to fool around with that. You know your printer better than I know your printer. And the other option is, if you're going to use little tiny pieces of paper and do a paste up, remember this is a half sheet, you're going to do a paste up and do a fold, you will still have to, from side to side, you will still have to trim this off and be mindful of your edges. There's plenty of room in this binding for signatures. There's room for at least 5 signatures of 4 pages, 4 doubled over pages at least, maybe more. Depends on how much you want to stuff in one of these things.
That's all I've got for you today. I think we'll probably only work on this genealogy project specifically maybe once a month, give you time to gather tools and materials. I hope that you and your family are well. Until I see you again, God bless you. Take care.